Hi, this is Erin from Blossy Bee. Welcome to my channel. The plan for this video is to try and solve a problem I have with cylindrical moulds not keeping their shape. So I'm going to design, build and test a mould support prototype, and then I'm going to use AR400 and two different pigment options to cast some jars to test the mould support. And then lastly, I'm going to decorate one of the jars by engraving a design using the xTool F1 laser engraver and the RA2 rotary tool. I do need to give a warning here that there are going to be flashing lights. There is a section in the video where a laser is being used, and if you would like to avoid that section, the start and finish times of that particular piece are shown on the screen now. I do have another little warning, and this one is a cuteness alert. Yes, I have more fresh video footage of that gorgeous little platypus. Please feel free to fast forward if you don't want to watch. I've had just the most amazing feedback on my previous video where I showed you the footage, and here he is again. Oh, still he, because I still want there to be a she in a burrow having babies. And look at him, he's just busy diving, and I know that he's getting food because when he pops up you can actually see his mouth moving, and he's just amazing. So thank you for everyone who sent some platypus love this way, and I'm actually going to decorate the jar at the end in his honour. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I have a problem with cylindrical moulds getting out of shape. So I've come up with a little bit of an idea. I'm still in the testing phase, obviously. So what I've done is I've mixed up a batch of AR400 Eco Casting Powder, and I'm using an idea I saw from the girl in the garage with these Atelier inks. I'm trying to get a real sort of a colour splash. So I've split the AR400 casting powder mix into 3 separate cups with the idea that I want to have one will be for the lid, and then 2 of them will go into the body of the jar. I was hoping if I split it into 2 for the jar that I have more chance of getting the pattern all the way through. On the little piece of paper in front there are the measurements that I'm using, if that might help you at all. And I'm trying to just keep the colours separate, and hopefully get a pretty pattern. So these inks, I don't think ever used them before with any resin product, and spoiler alert, I don't think I'll be using them again. Certainly not using this method. So I give it just the quickest little jiggle and then pour straight in. One frustrating thing about this lid mould, and quite a few other lid moulds I've seen as well, is that the top, or the part of the lid that you see, is actually the sort of rough bottom, what would normally be the rough bottom of the piece. And they're never quite as neat and pretty as they could be. I sort of feel like they've got them upside down, but anyway. So that was my first little cup full, and this is my second cup full. I definitely think I'd use this technique again of dividing it into the mixtures. So I'll explain a little bit more about the contraption around the mould shortly, but for the moment, this is the time to demould, and straight away Look, it looks pretty and it's unusual and it's bright and unique and all of those wonderful things. But I can see that because I didn't mix the ink in at all, it has just pooled in places. So you're getting a better view of my little prototype here. It is just made out of a thick cardboard and paddle pop sticks. And so I'm just going to pull that apart and take it off so that I can actually demold the jar, and then we'll see if it actually worked or not. So I did cut this out on my xTool F1 laser engraver and cutter, and I just sort of mathematically worked out all of the sizing that I needed, and then created the little slots for the paddle pop sticks. And I know that it seems to be working because this last one is actually quite snug and a little bit difficult to get off, but we get there. In the long run, I think I would make these probably out of a firmer material, but just for testing purposes, the cardboard was fine. So just get a load of this ink that I get on myself in a moment. It is just literally pulled onto the surface of the cast piece. And as I'm starting to demold, I can also see that there is not that beautiful smooth finish that I normally see with AR400. Instead, it is a little bit rough. There are some sort of, never know what to call them. They're like little pock marks or mini craters, really, where the ink has sat, but then, oh yeah, look on the mould, it's terrible, isn't it? So I can see where the ink has probably sat, but then maybe due to evaporation as the product is curing, or the heat created during the curing process, those little areas have been left. So certainly not smooth. And look, to be honest, it's not really pretty either. But it might be, someone might look at it and think that is my vibe. That's my thing. So here is the test to see, did it actually come out in a circular shape? And yes, I just was giving you the big thumbs up there. I was so happy with the shape of this little jar and lid. I've never had a problem with the lid before, but the jar, I certainly have had issues. So I'm going to show you here just a little bit closer some of those areas which are, they're quite rough and dented on the pot. This is, of course, before sanding it. But I'm also going to show you a pot that I cast quite a few videos back, and you can see here that it is formed in a slight oval shape. Now, I was trying to show off and show you that nothing would fit, but of course I'd neglected the fact that I'd actually sanded this black and white pot extensively, so it did fit. But I'm about to show you here. So that little white piece there, that is just a couple of millimeters of the pot where you can see it is actually larger in that side than the lid. So this new one, no problems like that whatsoever. So it worked perfectly. So I need to go again because I've got the circular aspect of it, but I don't have a jar that I'm proud of as yet. So this is me assembling the pieces. So I've got some of the mould support squares with the circular part cut out, and others are circular parts. I was practicing first with just circles, but then I realised as I layered them around the mould, I really did need to come up with some sort of way of supporting, and that's when the paddle pop idea came in. And as I said, I just measured the dimensions of the paddle pop sticks and then made those little holes for them. And they held up really well. My goal was really to try and make something that's cheap. You know, cost effective is probably a nicer way of saying that. Easy to make. And at this testing stage, you know, it doesn't matter if the pieces don't make it through, because it's very quick and easy to make another set if I needed to. So I've ended up working out that for this particular mould, 3 of the support pieces are very adequate. That's all I really need. So this one I'm going to be using an arc pigment from Just Resin in aqua green. I love this colour. It's very pretty. And what I'm going to do first though is I'm going to weigh the previous jar and lid, and I'm going to check my calculations. So what happens is, as you progress through the curing phase with eco resins and casting powder products, the product gets lighter because the water evaporates. So this is a more fresh pour, so I'm getting a more accurate amount of the eco resin acrylic casting powder that I actually need to use. So the measurements that I'm writing down now worked out very accurately, so I was really pleased about that. So all of these little notes that I take, I just attach them in a large notebook. After I finish videoing, I date them and I put a little description at the bottom. So they're always there for the next time I want to work with this mould, or if I'm looking at something I've done and thinking, oh, you know, I want to make 2 of them, or I want to try something different, I've got some notes to refer back to, and I've got those, basically they're just a little mathematical formula of how much of what I need. And this casting powder I purchased from Harry and Wilma, and I get it in a magnificent 10 kilogram tub. I always feel so spoiled when it comes. It's huge, and it is a 3-to-1 ratio mix. So it is 3 parts of the powder to 1 part of just tap water. Now I'm just showing you here that I have got 2 cups, one inside the other, because a couple of videos back I had a flooding issue. I think the abrasive nature of the eco casting powder wore away on the base of a paper cup I was using, and I just don't want that to ever happen again, because it took a long time to clean up. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure out the amount of eco casting powder I need and water, and then mix those 2 together. I have been trialling a different order of doing things. So in this particular case, I put the pigment into the water first, and then I added in the powder. I haven't really found that much of a difference doing it this way or the other way, but I just thought I'd mention that in case you wondered what on earth I was up to. And look how pretty this colour is. I do decide to go a little bit darker as well, because I know that as these pigments cure, they can lighten in colour, and I did want this to be a fairly deep colour, particularly as I was hoping to be able to engrave it with the design at the end. Although I didn't know at the time of making this that my design was going to be a very cute platypus. So I felt pretty lucky that I had this beautiful green pot just sitting there. I was like, oh, I might just switch my plans up a little bit and do that. And I do find that the laser engraving on eco resins works better at this stage for me on darker pigments. But I have got plans to be testing lighter pigments and using paints. And Louise Singleton from Louise Singleton Creations has some wonderful videos that I've been learning a lot from. And I always admire her beautiful way of sharing information and her high level of crafting skills. So be sure to check her out if you are interested in engraving an eco casting powder. So I'm just going to fill the lid carefully and then the pot. Now, because I'm just using one solid colour this time, I don't have to worry about different mixtures. It's all just the same. And of course, I do go in and give it a little tap and squeeze. I just want to dislodge any air bubbles that might be clinging to the walls of the silicone mould. Although, to be honest, I get virtually zero bubbles with this product. I should do a test. Note to self, do test soon to see whether I do actually need to try and dislodge bubbles, or whether I can just pour it without that extra step. So when I do that, I will film it and upload it, and we can find out once and for all. I guess too it depends how long you've mixed it for. Even the stirring stick that you've used could have something to do with it. How much pigment or other things that you put into it. All those things could affect it. So everybody's favourite part, it is demoulding time. If you haven't used an eco casting powder or an acrylic resin before, they do cure very quickly, and it is best to take them out as soon as you feel they can have reached that strength, because you don't want to sort of let them sweat in the mould for any longer than needed, because of course you've added water and that is going to be evaporating and pooling. So I think this was around about just over an hour and I'm demoulding. So I'm taking my little cardboard prototype pieces off, and I can see already that it is looking very round. Now this one, on the last one, it was difficult to remove. On this one, I do end up tearing it, and I'm not at all worried because I can very easily make another one. It's just very snug. Sort of reminded me of years ago when I used to pull, a pair of jeans on. It'd be like wriggle, wriggle. Okay, so straight away I can see that the pigment has blended quite beautifully. You will always get, well, I always get quite a bit of variation in the walls of a jar, for example, or a candle holder. You get lighter and darker areas, but that's just the beautiful nature of this product and the pigment, I think. I don't want it to look totally just one bland colour. I want it to look more organic and natural and, handmade, because, these are my hands. I'm doing all of this, and, that's an important aspect of this for me, that, each piece that I make is completely unique. Very happy with how this came out, and very circular. There is no warping to this at all. So I am happy to give that testing mould support a huge thumbs up. Great success. So these are the 2 pots that we have ended up with, and I decided to go ahead and I have sanded them both. The one on the right I did have to sand quite heavily because of the areas that had sort of eroded during, I think, the curing and evaporating process. I'm going to use the Nicole Sealer Wax to give them both a nice coat. And I'm not going to do anything else with the jar on the right, the multicoloured jar. I'm going to leave that one as is, but of course I am going to be laser engraving the green jar and lid. So I want to make sure that they are protected, and then I also go ahead after doing the laser engraving and give it another coat just to protect where the material has been removed during that laser engraving process. The Nicole sealer wax is very easy to apply. If you've watched my channel before, you've seen me do this many times. You use the grey circular applicator sponge to apply a coating, and then I just wait a little while, and then I use the soft cloth to buff it all off and make sure that I've got all of the areas covered. And this makes your creations waterproof. It's food safe, and it also really does enhance the colour. Looks good. Okay, over to my xTool F1 laser engraver. So if you are interested in the settings, you're very welcome to pause and replay them. They are the same settings that I've used before for the AR400. I have got it set up not on the base plate, but using the rotary tool. So they make this device here, which is the RA2 rotary tool, and you put your piece on there and clamp it in, and then I use a little level to make sure that it's all level. That little blue light you saw was the tool which just shows it's in everything's in the right place. So that's how I position things. And then we've pressed go, and just going to show you a little bit of the process. It's very fast, really. It does take, I think this one took maybe 11 or 12 minutes in total, and I think the lid took 2 or 3 minutes. But this is the result, and it looks so pretty. I love the design I made. I used 3 different elements there from Creative Fabrica and also Pixabay, and I just carefully measured out the jar and made sure that I made the pattern a seamless pattern so it would go around. So I hope you enjoyed this video and the additional platypus viewing, and I'm so grateful for you watching. If you would like to subscribe, comment, share and like, that would be wonderful. And here are the finished pieces. And as I said, I'm super happy that the plan for this video was to try and come up with a way to solve that problem of my circular moulds getting, or cylindrical moulds getting out of shape. And I think we achieved it. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.